What if an interstellar object whirling through our solar system is actually a nuclear powered spacecraft sent by aliens to test how humans respond?
What if I told you that somewhere in the dark, endless stretches of space, an object has slipped into our solar system? A visitor so massive, so fast, and so perfectly timed that some of the world's most respected scientists are now asking whether it was deliberately sent here? And what if that object, instead of being just a comet or asteroid, was actually a nuclear-powered alien spacecraft built to test how humanity would respond to first contact? This is not science fiction. This is not a movie script. This is a real astronomical mystery unfolding right now in our skies. The object is called 3I/ATLAS. Officially, it's only the third confirmed interstellar visitor humanity has ever detected. But unofficially, it may be something far more dangerous. Something that challenges everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. Let's start with what made astronomers drop their jaws the moment this thing was spotted: its speed. 3I/ATLAS is moving at over 130,000 miles per hour. That's so fast you could fly from New York to Los Angeles in just over 1 minute if you could somehow hitch a ride. For comparison, the fastest human-made object, NASA's Voyager 1 spacecraft, travels at just 38,000 miles per hour. Atlas is moving more than 3 times faster than the most advanced spacecraft we've ever built. And here's the kicker. It's moving so fast that even the gravity of the Sun, the most massive object in our solar system, can't trap it. That means it came from far beyond our star system, and unless something slows it down, it will eventually disappear back into interstellar space, gone forever. Except, what if it doesn't? When astronomers first calculated the true size of this object, many of them thought their computers had glitched. Because 3I/ATLAS isn't just some icy rock or a speck of dust drifting through the void. Measurements suggest it could be anywhere from 6 to 9 miles across. That makes it comparable in size to Manhattan Island. Imagine standing under the night sky and knowing that something as big as an entire city is silently racing overhead, faster than any human technology could dream of moving. The comparison becomes even more striking when we look back at the last interstellar visitor that captured global attention: Oumuamua, discovered in 2017. That object was already considered strange, stretching about the length of a football field, around 330 feet. Big, yes. But next to Atlas, Oumuamua looks like a pebble beside a skyscraper. So here's the unsettling question. How could nature fling something this massive across interstellar space and keep it intact for thousands, maybe even millions, of years? Many astronomers say it's nearly impossible, which is why some have started asking the question we all secretly fear. Is it really natural at all? On July 1st, astronomers tracking the sky spotted a faint speck of light moving relative to background stars. At first, it looked like just another comet. But when they calculated its orbit, the hairs on the backs of their necks stood up. Because Atlas wasn't wandering aimlessly through space like natural objects usually do. It was on a perfect trajectory, almost like a planned tour of our solar system. Its path takes it past Mars, Earth, Venus, and Jupiter in a sequence so efficient, so mathematically elegant, that the odds of it happening by chance are vanishingly small, less than 0.005%. To put that into perspective, if you sent 20,000 random objects through our solar system, only one might take a path even remotely like Atlas. Think about that. Either we've just witnessed the rarest cosmic coincidence imaginable, or this thing is flying a route deliberately planned by an intelligence that understands orbital mechanics. And that's when Harvard astronomer Professor Avi Loeb stepped into the conversation. Avi Loeb is not some fringe scientist making wild claims. He is one of the most respected astrophysicists in the world, with over 700 published research papers and decades of experience studying black holes, the early universe, and cosmic structures. And when he looked at the data, he came to a conclusion that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. 3I/ATLAS might not be a natural object at all. Instead, Loeb suggested, it could be humanity's first confirmed encounter with alien technology. a reconnaissance probe launched thousands of years ago from a distant star system, now sweeping through our cosmic neighborhood to gather data on Mars, Earth, Venus, and Jupiter. And here's the truly chilling part. Loeb doesn't think ATLAS is planning to leave. According to his team, it may use advanced propulsion systems to slow down and settle into orbit around the Sun, possibly near Jupiter, where it could remain hidden, silently watching humanity for decades or centuries. For centuries, the story of Richard III's fate had been cloaked in mystery, doubt, and the bias of Tudor propaganda. Chronicles written after his death painted him as a deformed tyrant, a usurper, a murderer of nephews, and a king unworthy of memory. Shakespeare immortalized this image in his play, casting Richard as the hunchbacked villain whose lust for power drove England into chaos. But now, with the unearthing of the skeleton in Leicester in 2012, history was about to be rewritten, not with ink and quill, but with the tools of modern science. The body had been hastily buried in a crude grave at Greyfriars, without a coffin, without ceremony. The bones bore signs of violence. Deep sword wounds to the skull and a thrust to the pelvis painted a brutal picture of Richard's final moments at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485. But the question remained, was this really him? Archaeologists could compare the skeleton's spinal curvature to descriptions of Richard's supposed deformity. Chroniclers had spoken of a crooked back, and Shakespeare himself gave him a hunched and twisted figure. The remains showed scoliosis, an abnormal curvature of the spine. It was not the monstrous hunch Shakespeare described, but it would have made one shoulder higher than the other. Still, that was circumstantial. Skeptics wanted absolute proof. This was where DNA stepped in. Scientists extracted mitochondrial DNA from the remains, genetic material passed down the maternal line, unchanged for centuries. But who alive today could be linked to Richard III? Remarkably, genealogists traced an unbroken maternal line from Richard's sister, Anne of York, down through 16 generations to 2 living descendants in Canada. One of them, Michael Ibsen, a furniture maker, provided a DNA sample. When the sequencing was complete, the results were breathtaking. The mitochondrial DNA matched perfectly. Against staggering odds, science had connected the bones beneath a Leicester car park to the last Plantagenet king of England. It was not just a discovery, it was a resurrection of identity. History's villain had been found, not in legend, but in flesh and bone. Yet with the confirmation came controversy. Some critics argued that DNA alone could not be conclusive. After all, maternal lines can branch widely across generations. But further analysis, including radiocarbon dating, isotopic studies of the bones, and historical accounts of Richard's diet and final battle, built an overwhelming case. By 2014, the evidence was irrefutable. This was Richard III. The discovery rippled across the world. Newspapers hailed it as one of the greatest archaeological finds of the century. For the first time in 500 years, the last English king to die in battle had a face, a body, and a grave that could be studied. But the story did not end with science. It ignited new debates about history, about propaganda, and about how we judge those who came before us. Was Richard III truly the monster of Shakespeare's pen? Or had he been the victim of one of history's most successful smear campaigns? And most importantly, what did finding him mean for England's story? The confirmation of Richard III's remains was not the end of the journey. In many ways, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one that forced historians, politicians, and even the public to confront uncomfortable truths about England's past. The first great controversy arose over Richard's reburial. Should a king of England be returned to York, the stronghold of his dynasty and the city he loved? Or should he remain in Leicester, the place of his defeat, burial, and rediscovery? The debate became so heated it was dubbed the War of the Bones. The descendants of Richard's family argued passionately for York, claiming that Richard himself would have wished to be laid to rest in the north. But Leicester Cathedral, standing just steps away from the dig site, pressed its claim. After a lengthy legal battle, the courts ruled in Leicester's favor. And so, in March 2015, more than half a millennium after his death, Richard III was given the funeral he had been denied. Thousands lined the streets as his coffin, crafted by Michael Ibsen himself, was carried with dignity to Leicester Cathedral. Soldiers in armor, clergy, royalty, and citizens alike attended, as the remains of a king once vilified were finally honored. It was a moment heavy with symbolism. England had not only rediscovered its lost monarch, it had given him peace. But beyond ceremony, the discovery reignited fierce debates about Richard's character. Was he the ruthless usurper who murdered his nephews, the princes in the Tower? Or was he a reformer, a capable ruler undone by enemies and maligned by Tudor propaganda? Historians revisited old sources. Some pointed to his legal reforms, his efforts to curb corruption, and his support for ordinary subjects. Others reminded the world of his brutal rise to power, his swift claim to the throne, and the mysterious disappearance of the princes. The truth, as always, is complex. Richard was neither angel nor demon. He was a man of his time, shaped by the brutal politics of the Wars of the Roses. A skilled soldier, a shrewd leader, but also a man who played a dangerous game and lost. Yet the discovery gave him something priceless: humanity. He was no longer a caricature of villainy. He was a man whose spine bore the marks of scoliosis, whose skull carried the scars of battle, and whose story had been buried under centuries of myth. In the end, the rediscovery of Richard III did more than confirm a king's resting place. It reminded us that history is never truly fixed. It is written and rewritten, shaped by those who tell the story and those who dare to look deeper. For 5 centuries, Richard was remembered as a monster. Now, thanks to science, archaeology, and the relentless pursuit of truth, he is remembered as something far more enduring: human. And perhaps that is the greatest victory of all.